Hi, I'm Linda Ade Brand, and I'm a stage director, and I get to direct Charlotte's Web.
Excellent. What is, in your mind, the story that you are telling?
Well, it's a real circle of life story. I'm a farm girl, so this I get. And you start out on the arable farm with this little runt that by all economic rights should just go the way of all flesh right away. But Fern, the farm daughter, says, no, this is so unfair. Just because he's small, you cannot kill him. You just can't. So her father relents and lets her raise this little runty pig. Starts out great, except then she realizes that they're going to sell this little runty pig. Well, yes, but now he's growing. What are you going to do? So he gets to go down the road a piece to the Zuckerman farm, to her aunt and uncles, because they sometimes raise a pig. Unbeknownst to Fern, this is also a pig for cash, not for a pet. But she doesn't know that, and neither does Wilbur, because of course this pig has a name and talks, and in our version sings and dances. And so he meets all of the other animals at the Zuckerman farm, including his first real friend besides Fern, and that's the spider, Charlotte. And spiders are scary, right? We all have been trained to be scared of spiders. Turns out she's wonderful. So there's your first big thought, that friends come in all sorts of packages that you might have thought were really scary before, but turns out they were great. She vows to save him, and she doesn't know how on earth this little spider is going to do this. But she then gets some help from the other animals, and even Templeton, the rat, helps. And she figures out words that describe Wilbur, like humble and radiant and some pig. And she spins them in her web, and they think it's a miracle. Well, it is a miracle. And so everybody comes to see these words in the web, and Homer Zuckerman vows that he will then, he's going to take the pig to the county fair. If the pig wins a blue ribbon, he will never make bacon and ham out of this pig. Pressure's on. Trouble is, when they get to the fair, there's this pig who's bigger, better. What you gonna do? Will Wilbur be saved? Golly, just can't tell you. You got to come see.
Well, you alluded to the fact that this is a musical production of the literature classic that we have all come to know and love.
Right.
What is it about this story that lends itself so well to being told through music?
I think there's a lot of lyrical moments. There are things you can just definitely sing about in Charlotte's Web, and it's friendship and celebration and even what am I going to name my pig? There's just lovely moments where people stop and think. And that's what you need if you're going to have a song. Because sometimes they perpetuate the action, but a lot of times they are also thoughtful moments. And that's what we get with this. It's a very sweet, sweet musical.
Mm-hmm. Now in this production, you're working with performers of all age groups and levels of skill and experience. What is that like as a director?
It's just fine. A lot of these kids have been working with Paula and me for many seasons with Opera Camp, and some of them are brand new, but they're smart as whips, and they are into it, and they work hard, and they pick up fast. And they're surrounded by young professionals. And I think that's just the best trickle down you could possibly have. You have people who really know what they're doing, and then you get young kids who are just going to automatically learn the right way to do something because they've got good examples all over them.
Now I noticed that you have some very young performers in this show that are playing Charlotte's children.
Right.
How old are those are those little performers, and how do you work with them as opposed to an adult professional like Sylvia and Charlotte?
Well, I think they look to be about 6.
Okay.
The biggest thing is to make sure they're safe, because their stages are tricky little places. And for example, one of our baby spiders has an entrance way up in a door in the barn that opens up. It's going to be just darling, but you got to make sure that she's safe getting up the ladder backstage, and then we feel really secure lifting her down. Beyond that, it's pretty much like anybody else, making sure that they're loud enough, or trying to get their little vocal technique going so that it's really nice and forward and a little higher pitched, maybe might cut a little bit better. Make sure they know who to talk to, and get their voices pointed downstage without looking like, "Hi, Mom, I am looking at you." Just little basic things that, frankly, sometimes you have to tell grown-ups too. So it's kind of all the same.
In this production, I'm circling back around, you're working with 2 ferns at the same time. You're blocking them at the same time. You're kind of working through that. What is that like?
Surreal. But they're both so good. So one of them will do the Lawrence shows, and the other will do the Kansas City shows. And sometimes they're just side by side getting blocking so they can really understand the spacing exactly at the same time. Other times we've got them working upstage and downstage of each other. And at the conservatory we had to do that a ton. So it's not a surprise. You just do what you need to do.
Now, do you have room to let each be their own version of fern within that?
Yeah, as long as I keep coming back to that circle of life thing. As long as we can cling to that sort of through line, they're going to be slightly different girls, and that's fine. As long as they go from the little girl who doesn't quite want to grow up but does want to love, through, maybe it's okay to face a little bit bigger world. That's her journey. And as long as they're telling that story, the variations don't bug me at all.
Excellent. You have a long and prosperous relationship with Paula Winans, the Director of Education, and our Education Department. What is it about education that strikes a nerve in your core?
Well, for starters, Paula's my friend, so I always love working with her. And the kids are just so great. They give back so much. They're so smart. And you can just see the whole new generation coming along, and you meet fabulous young people with this line of work. So they're just a delight. I just like them so much. I just like those kids. Well, I have to rave about our designers, just because. This is a set that we built in 1995 when, speaking of Circle of Life, my daughter was in a little carrier, and I just think it's still a lovely, lovely set that Keith Brumley has designed, and the guys here have built so beautifully, and it has, they dusted it off, and it's just as gorgeous as it was back in the day. The web is way cool. Wait till you see the web. And Sylvia is so deliciously athletic on this. She's just everywhere on it. It really comes to life. And that Mary trailer, I tell you what, you've got human people, and then you've got humans playing animals. Now, how do we differentiate with that? And she's come up with the cutest idea. And we've got all the people in period costumes, early 50s. And then we've got all of the animals that look like they stepped out about 100 years earlier. Sort of Wind in the Willows-y. Just have all that charm. And they are the cutest animal costumes you have ever seen. And yet you still see everybody's faces really, really well. Darling, darling.